Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to call the regular scheduled Board of Education meeting for March 9th, 2021 to order at 6 p.m. Ms. Pearl. And if you would please rise, I will take care of the invocation and pledge. Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another beautiful day in the Golden Isles. Thank you for our teachers, administrators, and staff. I ask that you be with this board as we make decisions that affect all children of this community, and we'll do it in your honor. We do all these in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time I'll turn it over to Ms. Tate for the spotlight from Glynn County.
Already?
Is
Yay!
that quick or what? Ms. Tate, yeah?
Yes. I'm sorry, I lost you.
Oh, yes, sir. At the Georgia DECA State Career Development Conference this past January, the Glynn Academy DECA team walked away with many accolades, including 3 state winners. Mrs. Roberts here is here with a few of her DECA team members to talk more about their most recent accomplishments.
And I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves and DECA in general.
I'm Jack Fendig. I'm the co-president of DECA, and a lot of people may ask, what is DECA? Well, DECA is the Distributed Education Club of America.
Hi, my name is Heidi McQueen. I'm co-president with Jack Fendig. And if a student is interested in marketing, management, finance, or hospitality, this is the club for you.
I'm Tyler Modis. I'm the VP of Career Development and Competition. And those 4 areas that Hallie touched on are the areas that we compete in against 15,000 members across the state, making Georgia the 3rd highest state. The 3rd highest state in the country, so it's very competitive.
Here at Glynn Academy, we have over 150 paid members, but we are also recognized at our recent conference for having the 8th largest chapter in Georgia. And I'm Hannah Gaines, VP of Membership.
In addition to competition, we also focus on school spirit and monthly community service projects. I'm Joe Kataya, senior member.
Most importantly, DECA makes us better people because we get the opportunity to go out in the community and help other people. And I'm Grant Wolf, senior DECA member.
And I'm so proud of all of these young men and women. We have a couple of other winners that you can see up on the board, including some rising stars, Emma Modis and Chelsea Yates. They're younger because these guys are seniors. I've had the pleasure to teach most of them since the 8th grade, so it has been a wonderful opportunity to revamp DECA with them over the last 2 years and get some recognition formally for their skills and knowledge in those areas of hospitality and tourism and marketing. Most importantly, each of these young men and women have actually won some sort of award, either region, which we compete in the Southeast Georgia region, a role play event where they had to go to Atlanta last year right before we were out for COVID and get a 10-minute prompt and interact with somebody spontaneously to show off their skills in sales or marketing. And then most recently, our region testing and state testing. And I've not had the opportunity to formally recognize these guys, so thank you so much from me to allow them to come in and let you see their faces. They have worked so hard, not just for me, but for the last 13 years that they've been in the Glynn County school system. So this isn't my recognition, this is their recognition and all the teachers that they've had, because they're tested in areas of economics, economic history, way more than I could ever teach them in the short amount of time that I have them. So it's really a Glynn County school system accomplishment for them to be here. And last but not least, Tyler Modis, I wanted to do this today formally in front of you guys. He won 1st place in the sports and marketing entertainment category just recently in Atlanta. So that is a huge, huge, huge accomplishment. And I wanted to give him his official award. Look how great it was. They have definitely set a strong foundation, and we have some rising stars that are up and coming that I hope we're going to expand this. I just want to let everybody know that sometimes the community asks, what about those classes such as finance, where we get to balance checkbooks or we get to learn how to give a speech. We have a plethora of those classes in Glynn County school system, as you know. And 80% of our members in these clubs go to college, so it's no longer just the vocational track or the college track. These clubs are for students that want to excel and are already excelling in many areas of leadership. So we invite you all to come, and hopefully we'll host our own competition soon, and stay on the board, and maybe I can be back next year with some more winners. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Thank you.
It's nice to hear well-spoken. They're very well-spoken, and we get a lot of people who talk to us, and they're very good.
You good?
And the next part is School Board Appreciation Week. So Glynn County Schools will join with districts throughout the state and the Georgia School Boards Association to celebrate the week of March 15th as School Board Appreciation Week. The week-long observance calls attention to the contributions of local boards of education. As constitutional officers of Georgia, school board members are responsible for setting educational policies, employing school personnel, providing buildings and equipment, operating a transportation system, and dispersing school funds. As community leaders, school board members serve as advocates for the children in local public schools and must study, evaluate, and decide what actions are in the best interest of those students. Today, we celebrate you for your continued dedication and service to our community and to our schools as a school board member. As a token of our appreciation, our fabulous first graders at Altamont Elementary have created cards for you, which you can find in your gift bags. And members of the Brunswick High and Glynn Academy Student Councils have recorded a video message to thank you for your service. Please enjoy.
Thank you for working to create a school year during COVID. Thank you for endless support in our activities.
Thank you for listening to our concerns. Thank you for creating positive change where needed in the school system. Thank you for working so hard for the students, teachers, and staff.
And I am a teacher at Brunswick High School. I am a product of the Glynn County school system because I graduated from the class of '95 at Brunswick High. And I just want to say thank you to the Glynn County Board of Education for all that you do to support Student Council, the Pirates and the fans in the stands, and the athletes of Brunswick High. Our fine arts programs continue to do well because of funding and support. The teachers have been blessed by your support. I know that wearing masks is not fun, and it has definitely been a challenge, but I am so thankful to be in the classroom with my students, seeing them face to face. I'm thankful for the opportunities to find ways to use the technology for us to still be successful and reach as many kids as possible during this epidemic and pandemic and all the things that are going on in our community. Thank you for helping us to get the vaccines that so many of us want. We feel safe and feel like we are being supported during this time. So on behalf of myself, Heather Watkins, Brunswick High Student Council Advisor, and AP Chemistry teacher, thank you for all that you do and I hope that you'll have a great Board of Education Appreciation Week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, board members. Alrighty, that brings us down to the citizens address the board portion of the meeting. We have a few people that did sign up. Before we get started, I'm going to read the brief preamble. I can do it without my glasses fogging up. The Board of Education has adopted a policy that permits citizens, under certain circumstances, to address the board on a variety of topics of general concern to the operations of our school. We welcome visitors to board meetings and are interested in hearing from the taxpayers and patrons of our school system. We have a few simple rules for public comment. Each person wishing to address the board must sign this roster. Each person is limited to 5 minutes, and the public comment portion of the meeting will not exceed 30 minutes. Any citizen who has a specific complaint involving an employee must first address the issue with the superintendent, and if not resolved, then may request to speak with the board. However, certain matters involving personnel and students must be heard in a closed session. The superintendent will inform you whether your complaint is one which should be referred to an executive session with the board. By signing this sheet, you're agreeing to abide by these rules. Okay, first up is Mr. Jason Bond. Yeah, Mr. Bond. Just come on in, Mr. Bond. You can come to the podium. You got 5 minutes, and then we'll turn it over to the next person. Come on in.
Okay.
Yeah, come on in.
Come on. It's a lot more than luck. Trying to honor a great man. Good evening. My name is Jason Vaughn. I come before you this evening with a simple request that we preserve the legacy of a true hero in our community. John Willis, or affectionately known as Coach Will around here in town. He has served our community over 22 years as an educator, and then another 10 years, even into his retirement, he has been around with us. And so we ask that we preserve this legacy of Coach Willis in two ways. First, we're asking that the road leading from Habersham Street to the current football facility be named John Willis Way. Because anybody who grew up during the John Willis era knew there was only one way to do things, and that's John Willis Way. And the second ask is that the facility that the football team is currently using as the field house be simply named the John Willis Field House. Coach Willis' story is so impactful to our community. Coach Willis was destined to become an exceptional contributor for the well-being of students in Glynn County from the onset of taking the job. As we all know, in 1979, our community was divided. And so, in such a way that many of our students even protested the 1979 season. But in the summer of 1980, our community got a true blessing. Coach John Willis arrived, and upon arriving in Glynn County, he arrived with one mission: to bring this community together. He was able to meet with community leaders on both sides of the fence and bring Brunswick High back together and create a diverse coaching staff and a diverse team. Coach Willis, in just his second season as head coach, had the most wins in the history of Brunswick High School. His resume go on and on with wins in the highest classification of football. He has 4 region championships, and he has been a state runner-up in the highest classification of football. Coach Willis, a unifier of our community, a great hero, father to many kids, and in the building, he literally created a positive learning environment. And anybody that was in those buildings during the Coach Willis era knew the impact that he had on young lives. Coach Willis' legacy continued to live through the many football players and the people that were able to take advantage of going to college debt-free, receiving scholarships. His legacy lives in the hours and years he spent volunteering in the off-season, ensuring that his players stayed healthy and ensuring that their grades were right. His legacy is in the Pirate Pride jumping jacks we do before every football game, and I boldly say it because Coach Willis is my coach. His legacy continues with the educators that he influenced to become educators, and leaders that he influenced to become leaders, administrators, and a very special superintendent that played under Coach John Willis. A true inspiration to our community. At 22 years of service, he is the longest serving high school football coach for Glynn County Schools. Always faithful to the community, always doing what's right, always looking out for his players and bringing us together. I humbly ask that we honor the legacy of John Willis by naming these places in his honor.
I think so. Thank you, Jason.
I have physical copies of the request, of course, and I'll leave those here.
Okay.
I can also email those in if anybody needs them electronically.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
All righty. Next we have Mark Friedman. Got to break the camera there.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Dr. Mark Friedman, and I am a retired child and adolescent psychiatrist who has lived and practiced medicine in the Golden Isles since 1983. My children went through public education, and I very much appreciated the quality education that you prepared for them. I am speaking today concerning the 1619 project. I know that the Board of Education prides itself in not influencing the curriculum of our school system, and I respect that history. But I had to feel that it was my civic duty to make you aware of the controversy of this 1619 project. I do this because I value community coherence, truth, fairness, and I am especially concerned about the vulnerability of children. In my opinion, and the opinion of very respected historians, the 1619 project does not teach history. Instead, it is a polemic that purposefully generates anger, resentment, and hate. It is extremely divisive. As a long-standing of your community, our community, I cannot stand idly by and do nothing when I see hate being taught. The architect of the 1619 project is Nicole Hannah-Jones, who in 1995 wrote, quote, "The white race is the biggest murderer, rapist, pillager, and thief of the modern world. The descendants of these savage people pumped drugs and guns into the black community, packed black people into the squalor of segregated urban ghettos, and continue to be bloodsuckers in our community." Even more recently, in her introduction to the 1690 project, she states, "Anti-black racism runs in the DNA of this country." This series of essays and articles provided to teachers and readers with many, quote, facts that you may not have known. I will read a few of these facts. That our country began in 1619 rather than 1776. When the first slaves were brought into Jamestown. But the brutal system of slavery was unlike anything that had existed in the world before. That the American Revolution was fought to preserve slavery. That Abraham Lincoln was a racist. That America's foundational premise was slavocracy and not democracy. That present-day American wealth is a direct consequence of slavery. That the essential pattern of our history is not one of unprecedented growth in freedom and democracy, but rather institutionalized hatred and oppression of blacks. That slavery was not the unwilling inheritance of British colonialism, but instead was the love object of American capitalism from its very origins. That slavery was not a curse that the founders of our country grudgingly tolerated with the understanding that it would soon evaporate, but instead it was the prize that the Constitution went out of its way to secure and protect. The 1619 Project is not history. It is a polemic, with its primary targets being capitalism, white people, and all of our institutions and founding documents. It wants to tarnish all of this by associating it with slavery. There's a conspiracy theory insisting that it has acquired a simple explanation to everything. It tells an aggrieved audience that finally it has discovered the real cause of its unhappiness. It behaves as if the Civil War never happened, that the slaves somehow freed themselves, that a white president never put weapons in the hands of black men and white men to take up arms against bondage. It forgets that there was an 1863 project and that its name was emancipation. No nation can live without a history that affirms, in Ralph Waldo Emerson's words, quote, that the evil eye can wither, that the heart's blessing can heal, that love can exalt and overcome all odds. The 1619 Project offers us pessimism, bitterness, fragility, and intellectual corruption, not history. It is the bitterest of ironies that the 1619 Project emanates from the chair of ultimate cultural privilege of America, the New York Times newspaper. In no human society has an enslaved people suddenly found itself valued into positions of such privilege, and with the consent, even the applause, of those who were once the enslavers. The 158 years since emancipation are less than a second in human history's long clock, so that such a transformation is more in the nature of a miracle to be celebrated rather than a failure to be deplored. It is a miracle Frederick Douglass celebrated. It is a miracle Martin Luther King, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, Barack Obama, and Ben Carson have celebrated. It is a miracle that apparently Nicole Hannah Jones' own father celebrated, a man who she could never understand. But it is not the miracle celebrated by the 1619 Project.
Sir, just want to let you know your 5 minutes was up. So let you go a little bit longer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Keith Reddings.
Dr. Smith, board members, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Keith Reddings. Many of you know me. I am a 30-year veteran of the school system, retired now. I'm here to speak on behalf of the John Willis project presented to you earlier. I know I only have 5 minutes, but when it comes to John Willis, I could probably speak for days, but I will be real brief. As Jason already mentioned to you, John Willis came in the midst of a boycott. John Willis, I was a sophomore at that time. John Willis brought us together, black, white, Chinese, whatever. And he taught us to be brothers, he taught us to be men, he taught us to be unified, and he taught us to win. Don't just take my word for it. Dr. Spence also was a member of that team. The guy standing before you in purple, I was supposed to have my purple blazer on, but I was enjoying retirement life too much and didn't get a chance to run home. But they are members of, or we are members of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, all influenced by the efforts of John Willis. 2 of them even went to Glynn, so it wasn't just it wasn't just Brunswick High Dr. Coach Willis influence. But Coach Willis was more than just a football coach. Coach Willis would push you to your limits. As a high school senior, I had auto mechanics class. Coach Willis called me and said, "Keith, come to my house and put brakes on my car." Now, many people you would think that was getting cheap labor. But for John Willis, he was pushing me to see if I knew what I was doing and if that was really what I wanted to do in life. So I went over there and I put those brakes on, and I figured out that was not what I wanted to do in life. The other thing I want to share as not a football coach was I haven't been to a barbershop in 40 years, thanks to John Willis. Obviously, I don't need it now. But when Coach Willis came to town, he would cut the football players' hair. And when I went off to college, I bought my own clippers and I started cutting my own hair. So I haven't been to a barbershop in 40 years. And I did some simple math. Back then, haircut was about 5. Now it's about 20, so I averaged it out to about $12.50. And for 40 years, that's about $13,000 Coach Willis has saved me. So I don't know how I'm going to be paying, but...
and for breaks.
Right. But last thing I want to say really is Coach John Willis was a motivator, and not just to athletes. John Willis motivated you to be a better person and to live a better life. So anytime anybody says speak about honoring John Willis, believe I will be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up is Miss Maria Mangram.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yes, you can. My name is Maria Mangram. I have with me my brother Michael Willis, my other brother Wesley Willis. He could not be here tonight, but he is definitely standing in and watching. Just on behalf of the Willis family, we just first want to say thank you for everything that, that has been said and done thus far. About our dad, he's a wonderful person. He's a great individual. Those of you that really, really know him, you know that he is who he is. He's the same person every single day, like no matter who or where. But we're forever grateful and forever humbled with Glynn County, first and foremost. My brothers and I, all three of us, are products of Glynn County. We all graduated from Brunswick High School. Guess we really didn't have a choice, but we are definitely diehard Pirates, and we're just happy to be here for one. Just happy the fact that his name is being brought up in a prestigious way. He's been around for a long time. He has instilled in us so many different things, and just from a child's perspective. He taught us how to not see color, how to not see black and white, how to just go be the best you can be in whatever it is you're doing. I heard Coach Reddings talk about motivating. He taught us how to, if you say go, Mike and I probably could tear that desk apart if you asked us to. But, he instilled that in us, and he taught us how to just leave everything you have out. Whether it's in your work field, whether it's on the court, on the field, just being a people person. And so we're just speaking on behalf of him, just like everyone has said, he is who he is. Just in general, he is the reason that all of us, my brothers and I, all of us are teachers. We're coaches and we're our whole family teach and coach. We don't have, I feel like we didn't have a choice, but we did. But he definitely, not really. But he definitely, put that in the forefront, and he paved the way. And you can't really mention, I know this is all about my dad, but we can't mention my dad without my mom. My mom is probably the strongest person that I have ever been around, and not just because she's my mother, but we were used to John Willis being our superhero. We never saw him in an uncompromising situation where he couldn't do or couldn't talk. And so to see him actually have to go through a stroke a couple years ago, it was really rough for all of us because he's our Superman. Like he doesn't get sick. Nothing happens to him. He's just like a normal person, like nothing happens. And so for us, that was a tough situation for us to have to go through for him. So we're forever grateful for whatever you all decide. But my mom didn't come because she's at home with him. Of course, you know, if it was his way, he would have been standing right here behind me. But those of you that know Barbara Willis, she said, no, sir, you're not going. So, you know, we're just, again, I don't want to run over my time, but I'm just here to just say, you know, he put in a legacy in all of us, and it's not just about us, but we're speaking from kids, but we saw him touch so many lives, even as me. Like, I can remember being around when Dr. Spence was playing, and I was the little girl running around with the pom-poms and the cheerleading outfit, trying to, you know, figure it out, even to the times when he was allowing me to drive his stick shift on the practice field to take the water around to each little part on his, of his football practice. And so just all of those things I can remember. And he just teaches life lessons, and he's always taught life lessons, even to this day. The main person that I think would probably be the best speaker to talk about him would have been my 10-year-old son, Damari. He told me 5 minutes, like that's all I've given you? Like that's not enough time. And those of you that know Damari, you know he said it just like that. So just on behalf of the Willises, we just want to say thank you. We will be forever grateful for whatever you decide. But, you know, while he is alive and kicking, we definitely want to give him his flowers while he can smell them. And so, you know, that's just one thing that we really want to push. But we just want to say thank you for the moment, for this moment, and allowing us to come in here and speak on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, next up is Ms. Chelsea Hill.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We got a couple supporters that are going to come in with me tonight and scoot over here if you don't mind. All right, we'll get started. So,
You can come in if you want. Come in.
I've met these lovely ladies here tonight, not understanding really what's going on, and that's why I came to this meeting tonight. I have a son, I'm going to give you a quick backstory. I have a son at Risley Middle. He's in 7th grade in an advanced science class. Good kid. Comes in, tells me that a teacher's being let go, and I'm like, one of his favorites, actually. I've heard this teacher's name multiple times. He swears we went to school together, but I'm not going to argue with him because he knows everything at 12. But anyway, so comes in, tells me that she's getting fired, and I'm like, no, Miss Moore, she's teacher of the year. I asked him why. He said he's heard that she cussed at someone. I asked him why. He said because someone rubbed a banana in her floor. I said she should have cussed at him. I said she's not going to lose her job for that. A couple weeks later, I say, hey Connor, Miss Moore back, fully confident that Miss Moore would be back in the classroom. Oops, sorry. Didn't do that. Thank you. Teacher would be back in the classroom. Teacher's not back in the classroom. Well, I start reaching out to people. People in the school that I know, they won't talk to me. We can't talk about it. So, reached out to the front assistant, another lady. She said, I can't talk to you. I'll send you to the principal. Get to the principal. She says she sent it to HR. The only story I have to this day is what my son told me. I do know there's a substitute teacher in the class that a kid has chewed up a cheese stick, threw it at her, and it has landed in her lunch. She has no control of the classroom. I called the principal about that as well because my concern is we have a well-educated teacher that can control her classroom. She's not there. I still don't know what happened in this classroom. Come here tonight because I was informed by the HR, I think the superintendent's assistant, my next spot would be the school board meeting. So I'm here. I meet this group of people that are here with me as well. And one of them had an email that is extremely concerning to me and makes me realize I wasn't ready for this meeting and that I needed more information. I needed it from the principal. I needed it from the school to understand what is actually going on. It says, I wanted to, and this came from the principal of Risley Middle, to certain parents in this class. I wanted to reach out and let you know that if your child needs to see one of our counselors,
to talk through any struggles or concerns that your child may have regarding a certain class, please know that they are welcome to see either one of those counselors. Okay, so what happened? Why is this teacher being let go? Why don't we know? Why was my son not interviewed? Why was I not spoken to? If it is so bad that she's going to be let go, we need to know. If it is so bad that our principal has said kids may need counseling, we need to know. So again, we're not prepared because from my understanding, the school can interview kids, the school can send out emails, the school can ask whatever questions they want, but we can't reach out to teachers and ask them what's going on. They can't speak to us. They don't know what's going on. It doesn't make sense. But I do know you have a well-educated, respected teacher that is ready to teach her class. And the only people suffering right now are our kids, the students. So we're here today reaching out to you. If this teacher did do something that was so out of line, don't judge her on one mistake. Fix it. Pull some more training in. Let's teach these teachers how to deal with kids in today's society because they're not the same. What I knew at 7th grade, my son knows a lot more. So we're holding her to morals and standards that sometimes I think are unreachable. I'm not allowed in the school. I don't know these teachers. I do know my son says that teachers, principals, assistant principals are cussed out daily. I hit the floor. What? You didn't cuss out a teacher when I grew up. I'm 35, in case you want to know, but you didn't. So I know that teachers are going to have to be unconventional. And if these kids are in a public setting, school setting, on a public school bus, they have a cell phone, then they are exposed to things. If kids ask questions in this class that this teacher stepped out of line and may have answered wrong, then help her and teach her how to respond to these questions and how to answer them. But do not take one mistake and hold her accountable for one mistake, because at the end of the day, I manage about 25 people. To find people who care is the hardest thing to do. So go ahead, bring another teacher in. But I promise you, it will be hard to find someone like this certain teacher, and you're going to find someone who wants a paycheck or that cannot support those kids and who are going to get bullied and cheese sticks thrown at them. But you do have a well-educated teacher that wants her classroom back, who wants the proper training. I know this. I know this because of how she treated my son. I don't know because of the principal. I don't know because of HR. I know because of what my son said. And I also know because of these lovely people that I met today. And we all want the same thing. We want answers, we want to understand, but we want the teacher back. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I speak?
No, sir, we're actually, that's the last speaker. I tell you what, I'll make a personal exception and give you, I'll give you a couple minutes.
Thanks very much.
Yes, sir.
My name is Orange Moore. I'm John Ellis' father. I know Mr. Hussey, Ms. Edie. I drove her kids to school for years. I've been with the school system for 37 years. And I'm telling you, it's been a rocky road. But Johnetta was born, I won't call her name, but my daughter was born. She went to work at Winn-Dixie as soon as she was able to go to work. She bagged groceries at Winn-Dixie. She bagged groceries until she was able to work the register. She left there and she went, she graduated, she got grants and everything, went to college and got an education. She now has $3, a house to pay for. She's been a teacher for 13 years, and I thought everything was going so great because everybody seemed to love her, and she was just all over the place. And to hear this doesn't happen, and it's so bad that it would be either resign or terminate. This must be really bad. I don't even know what it was. You know, and we've been trying to get in touch with people to find out. And I humbly ask this board to reconsider this harsh punishment for my daughter.
What she needs some help. I mean, why is it so harsh? And I see so much. I've been in the school system a long time, and I've seen superintendents change, and I've seen board members change, and I've seen people get away with all kind of rough things. I mean, I'm not talking about the prior board, but I'm just saying, isn't it something that we could do other than this harsh punishment? And I humbly ask this board to please consider my daughter and her daughters. And please, if it's any way, she can keep the job. She graduated from Glynn Academy. She's there boosting at every game. I mean, it's just upsetting. And I don't know why it's so harsh. You know, we're in a diverse area here. It's rough. And whatever happened, I'm sure we can find some way to work it out. And please, board, please, I'm going to ask you, please help my daughter retain her job here in the Glynn County school system.
And help us understand what is
Thank you,
going
Mr.
on.
Morton.
Thank you very much for hearing me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Righty. That concludes the citizens address the board portion. I'll bring you down. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Jurgen, second by Ms. Gibbons. All those in favor? It's unanimous. I'd like to change things up a little bit and entertain a motion to go into executive session for legal and personnel. Any land while we're back there?
Do you want to talk about the other two?
We're going in for personnel and legal?
Yeah, personnel and legal.
Okay. Is that
I
covered?
know about land. Oh, do you want to do the?
Yeah, we don't need to go in
Do
twice.
that while we're back
You
there?
also have a third, and that is a tribunal appeal. You want to do that at the same time?
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and do that while we're back there. So,
Thank you, Mike.
so
Yes,
we'll
sir.
go back in there for land, legal, personnel, and tribunal appeal. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Jurgen, second by Mr. Mansell. Second. All those in favor? It's unanimous at 6:42.
session, por favor.
Motion made by Senor Halsey. Second, please. Second by Mr. Mansell. All those in favor? Unanimous at 7:45. All right, that'll bring us down to item number 6, the consent agenda items. Let's see here. I'd like to consent 7, 8, 9A, B, C1.
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
Oh, never mind. I'm sorry.
D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Policy, John, do we want to talk about that?
I don't mind putting it on the consent agenda to put it on the table for 30 days.
Okay.
Just those little notes we went over.
How about I just pull it out and we'll put it on we'll read it out then put it on the table.
Okay.
Do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Pull it up now.
Okay.
Computer.
All right. Any additions or deletions to consent? Hearing none, I'll read them back. Number 7 is approval of the February 4th, 2021 work session meeting minutes. Number 8 is approval of the February 9th, 2021 regular board meeting minutes. 9 is the superintendent's report. A is personnel. B is field trips. C1 is the GOOD report. D1 is approval of the financial report, January 2021, presented by Ms. Preston at the work session. D2 is approval of the bid for high school band uniforms, presented by Ms. Preston at Thursday's board meeting. 3 is approval of the network switches for Altown Elementary School. Number 4 is approval of the Edgenuity subscription renewal. 5 is approval of the change order for BHS MDF room. 6 is approval of bids for Glynn or gym flooring at Sterling and Greer. 7 is approval of the RFQs for the construction manager, presented by Mr. Boudreau at Thursday's work session. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Jurgen. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Mr. Halsey. All those in favor? Unanimous. That brings us down to E, policy, Mr. Medalla.
The computer's not coming up, so I'm working on that.
Me too.
We believe the site's actually down.
Okay, then.
Well, I believe we'll hold it for 30 days, or we'll, unless anybody has an issue with it, I'd rather just stick it on the table for 30 days for us to look at it. It's only 2 paragraphs that we discussed, and nothing's difficult. It's
Mine's
all
working
verbiage.
if you want me to read it.
Sir?
Mine's working if you want me to read it.
Okay, read it.
Yeah.
We're basically changing where it says, all approved school-sponsored activities up to 10 are considered as part of the school day and do not count against the student's classroom attendance. Students may use the 3 SSA days for educational purposes, pre-approved by the school principal. Superintendent or designee may approve additional days requested for any activities that may exceed 10 days. That's the one paragraph. That's the only paragraph. Oh, there's 2. Sorry. Hang on. And
How's it feel, the only one not blocked?
the other one is under technology, and says, in accepting any technology donations as items or service for the school system, technology donations must meet the district's current technology standards for computers, printers, monitors, displays, audio-video, network attached, or standalone devices. Such donated items or services do not conflict with or have any inadvertent effect on existing applications, network, or programs. Accepted items or services will not add undesirable or hidden support costs to the school system.
Right. Does anybody have an issue with putting that on the table for 30 days?
I do not.
All right. Thank you, Jerry, for...
Very welcome.
Thank you for not being blocked.
Yes, sir.
See who's got the power around here. So we'll set those policies for 30 days, and I guess we'll vote next meeting. All right, that brings us down to other.
We didn't vote on the consent agenda.
We voted on the consent agenda.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, okay.
I think I did.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong. I've been blocked.
All right, I know, under other, I'll bring this up. I know we were talking about GSBA summer conference. I received an email, I believe all the board members probably received one about going to Savannah this year, but it's going to be restricted a little bit in different scenarios. I believe Dr. Spence has an option possibly, if y'all want to hear it, and then we can kind of discuss about what the board feels they would like to do, if there's any opposition to it. So.
On the 11th, right after the GSBA conference, we will have Glissy come to Jekyll Island for the Glynn County School System, and all of our administrators will be there. And so we could do a 3-hour training with a Glissy person, much like what we did in the fall. And we could do something like that because you all have 3 hours remaining. And so that's what I'm thinking along those lines. And you could just come over to Jekyll for 3 hours, do the training, and that would wrap up your year's training.
I thought we had 6 plus a 3-hour.
You only have 3 hours left.
So we did 6.
Oh, we did 6, that's right, okay.
You know what date that would be?
We could pick a date, the 11th. We're going to be there the 11th through the 15th.
Okay.
And Dr. Whitehead could set up an instructor, and we could pick a date that you guys could mutually agree on. 14th through the 18th, I'm sorry.
Of June.
June, yes.
Would everybody think that option would be better for right now, just given the, I mean, I think
If it'd be
there'll still be a
cheaper.
lot of people, cheaper as well.
I would agree. Save cash.
Well, if that's the case, you said, Dr. White, I guess somebody can send us the dates, and maybe we can pick out what date works best for
So we could do
everybody.
some choices like we did last time, we'll give you choices, and we can just narrow it down to where we can pick something everybody can agree on.
Okay. Everybody okay with it? Any other, Mike?
Just real quick, and Dr. Whitehead, I'm sorry to keep everybody a little bit longer, but I need some help with again with how we're sort of managing the arts. When I mean art, band, and chorus in particular, continue to get emails and texts from teachers and from parents alike about how band members are going outside and the heat, the bugs, and this, that, and the other, and can't sing, can't play. And again, I think I understand a lot of feedback I'm getting about, submit a plan and it's got to be approved and this, but we have done everything else, indoor sports, we've had pageants, we've done a lot of different things that I've seen on Facebook, just with no mask and these other things. I don't understand what needs to happen. Need somebody help me understand so I can help them understand what they need to do to make sure we can sing in classes and we can play band instruments in classes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the schools have had the option to submit a plan if the principal was comfortable with the opportunities that they could provide within the building to have them be inside.
Right.
And after speaking with the principals and them speaking with their staff members who have those responsibilities, that they haven't submitted the plans forward to change what they're doing. The principals have been comfortable with what they're doing according to feedback we have gotten. And they are in communication with the parents. I've had emails this week. And at this point in time, the 2 high schools have operated all year under an approved plan.
Right.
With the spacing that they have available within both of their buildings or primarily outside. And so both high schools have operated that way. There's not been a case of you can't, it's just that we want you to follow the guidelines that we know are out there, not just CDC and Department of Public Health. There are research studies that have been done by performing arts groups, and most of that research falls in line with CDC and DPH, that masks should be worn at all times, and that there should be a sufficient air exchange in the room before you have other people come into that space, or you have the amount of time that people would play consistently, and then the amount of time in between groups coming in behind that. And so when they submit the plans, which the high schools have done, then I can get with Mr. Boudreau and we talk about what air exchange time is needed for that, what kind of spacing they would have to have. But again, even the research done by performing arts groups that have been doing studies since all this first started, Most of their guidance is very similar to CDC, in terms of what they consider to be safe practices.
And we may have done this, but did we do air exchange rates when we were doing indoor volleyball and wrestling meets and
But again,
pageants?
GHSA had those responsibilities.
What about school-sponsored events like pageants that are being held at
They are
school?
submitting very detailed plans, and I can tell you it's going back and forth several times before we're comfortable with signing off. I mean, it's to the point that even, you know, our student leadership program with Gulfstream, we had to go through the hoops to have that work. And it was to the point that Chris Nowicki with Gulfstream said that by the time they took it to go work with staff with UGA staff on Jekyll Island, UGA rubber stamped it when they saw it because they were like, y'all vetted this out, so we don't have any concerns with you doing this. And they've not been approving activities for their staff to work directly with students. They've been doing everything.
So if parents and other teachers aren't, you know, and these are people that are directly involved in it, if they're not seeing it, they need to bang on the principal? Is that what the option is?
They need to have the discussion with their principal about submitting a plan.
And that's what I kind of took from it, from the last conversation, was that you're basically saying, present us something so we can vet it, and the schools that are performing are the ones that just presented. The ones that aren't, they just really haven't kind of gotten together with the principal, and or say if Marcus is a band director at, you know, X school, and then I just haven't gotten this plan together, I mean, you're not going to review it if I don't submit anything, or if I talk to the principal. So I wonder if it's a disconnect maybe between the leadership and the band or the chorus or whoever else it is.
It does, Dr. Whitehead, I know you've been great during this whole thing. I know this isn't you, but it just doesn't compute with, again, I'll go back to all the sports activities, everything we've done in the school system, you know, and we've got covers on the instruments and everything else that they're doing. I just don't understand why you can't do it inside. And I mean, is there a middle school that's going off the reservation a little bit with this whole thing? And we've told them that, you know, so.
Yes.
Okay, so what's happening there? Nothing?
They submitted a plan, and Dr. Whitehead gave them recommendations.
Right.
And we're not certain that they're following those recommendations.
From my understanding, we just found out about that, I'm assuming.
It's been the last couple of days.
Okay.
But again, I'm not gonna sit there and say they're not, because I haven't seen it with my own eyes.
Dr. Whitehead, has there been a plan submitted that has prevented a function from happening here in Glynn County Schools? Have they been denied?
I mean, I can't think of one that we've actually vetted through and gone back and forth and come up with a safe option to do it. I can't think of a plan that we've denied.
Okay.
And that's what I've tried to reiterate and actually have it on the principal's meeting agenda for tomorrow. The submission of the plan is so that we can support them as well, to be able to communicate. If people have concerns, we can say, we have truly vetted this plan and we feel like this is as safe as it could be for them to continue to do that, including field days and all those things that are coming up for the spring. So
if a principal, with the help of his or her staff, present a viable plan, then we're trying to do everything possible to have school functions, extracurricular.
But from what I'm hearing, the principal could be kind of a stopgap on it too.
Yes.
Yes.
Which.
But that's, okay, I'm sorry.
I think we're thinking the same way. It's just difficult to see things carried out in parts of the county when they aren't.
Right.
And we try to keep,
doesn't look right.
We try to keep curriculum the same and everything else. Why can't we proactively say, if you're going to have a band concert, here's the 10 things that you got to do.
That's what we're saying.
Minimum things.
That's what we're saying.
But you're saying present us a plan and somebody's off the reservation.
I mean, we're telling them these are the things, she's communicating with them and saying, these are the things you have to do if you want to do this. But we can't plan for every possible scenario that could possibly happen.
Oh, I agree.
Every school's a little different.
I agree.
And so it becomes the principal and that teacher's issue to submit a plan that's site-specific, that then we look at and say, okay, these are the things we think you should change, go with it.
But every middle school has a band program, right? Or do they?
Yes.
Okay, so all the rooms are about the same size? I mean,
There are some differences.
There's some differences there, yeah.
I just got a hard time, y'all, and I apologize. Maybe
Everybody.
maybe it's
It's
me
not
problem,
just you.
but I
It's
mean,
not
I am
just
telling
you.
you, we had kids in the stands of football games not wearing masks, and everybody hugging. We didn't stop any of that stuff, and now, you know, we get specific and difficult about some things, and not specific and difficult about others. And you know, kids are not getting COVID at school. I don't believe. I think they're getting it when they go on vacation or when they go out of town. And so, you know,
On the surface, it makes it look like what Mr. Halsey is saying, but in all reality, it's, look, we still need to go through the right protocols for all this stuff to happen. And until that happens, then, you know.
And listen to what you just said, separating the sports versus the chorus and the arts. GHSA is the overseeing body on that, so is that where I think?
That's a cop-out, though. I mean, you know, it's just passing the buck. I'm not saying it, but you know what I mean. I mean, that's...
No, I'm just wondering if...
But if we had had the same
GHSA
controls over those things, we probably would have put more restrictions on those things. But those things were taken out of our hands by the governor when he said that GHSA could have governance over those events. And those weren't without risk. So even a performing arts group that we have locally that falls under GHSA guidelines,
Sure.
it did not go well whenever it started. It spread through that whole group. So
But it seemed like indoor sports is where we were having a lot of our hot
That's right.
spots, you know, from whenever we had a bunch of the numbers jump up throughout the year.
But we followed protocols. We didn't shut. I mean, we followed protocols and we shut. I know Glynn Academy had some issues and we shut. You know, stopped the season but we didn't stop. You know, and I guess we haven't stopped band. We stopped chorus, but I guess it's coming like a little bit. But
Just tell all the principals to come up with a plan, just in case they.
well,
do it,
and I'm sitting there. I'm just you know, I can't make a motion that says each principal needs to come up with a plan to safely have band indoors.
But
you know,
I'm recommending that he go and have them all come up with a plan.
Do we have a plan that for each principal to have band indoors?
No, not because everybody. I mean, if they want people to have it outside on the asphalt in the summer, then that's fine with us.
Have a plan for both. It's not that difficult.
And it requires, though, additional planning and additional steps to make it happen. I mean, you still can't have every kid in the band room playing instruments at the same time.
I agree.
So you have to plan staggered groups and when this group is going to play on this day and all those things. But we've provided some of those.
So how do we tell it? How do parents and how do students and teachers tell if it's it's too much trouble, or you know what I mean? So or I don't want to deal with that, so it's fine for y'all to play outside. You know what?
Do we have any?
At what point do you throw your hands up and say, let's just go outside, or?
Yes.
I'm with you.
98% of kids who are involved in activities in school graduate. I like that graduation rate, so we need to make that happen, whatever that needs to be. If you need to plan for indoor, you need to plan for outdoor, just plan it, for goodness sake. You make lesson plans all day long. Just do this plan and make it happen for our kids, because 98% of them graduate if they're involved in activities.
Well, or you could maybe flip it around and say, as a system, these are the recommendations we have for this particular activity. As a principal, let us know what barriers are in your way specifically to meeting these recommendations. Instead of, I don't know where the breakdown is, but if we're telling them to submit a plan and they're not.
I think that's kind of like what we've done.
Are the band directors, are the band teachers, presenting a plan to the principal and the principal sending it to you?
Theoretically, that's how it would happen.
Only at one
We're not putting you on
school
the
so
spot, I
far.
swear.
Yeah.
So is the plan that difficult that the other principals can't present it or don't have time, or what are their reasons for not turning in their plan?
I mean, I don't know the exact reasons for each person, but I think to a degree there's some uncertainty still associated with those activities inside and the risk that they would possibly be putting their staff member in and those other pieces. And I think that's somewhat of a barrier for some.
There are issues with instruments with the mouth. I mean, and what you're actually doing to the air with an instrument is a lot different than just talking.
And they found the same in studies of singing. So, that's just where some of the caveats to that come into play, is that the research out there, again, by the performing arts people, show that the projection and singing, depending on the pitch and the, you know, all the things that are going on with a particular song, that the voice in those instances could be producing the same aerosolization that an instrument does, that a wind instrument does. And so there is a perception that it is more risky for sure to do that.
I just wonder if the Georgia High School Association did the same thing with grunting and bleeding and spitting and sweating. And, you know, again, y'all, it's just, you're taking away something from something. But that's what we're doing by saying Georgia High School, and I know the one act play thing falls under them if they had issues, but then the basketball team had issues too. We had pockets. I don't think it's just the arts or just athletics, but we're pretty much saying, oh, Georgia High School. It's just like the college folks, man. They took things away from college kids and said we got to have football because of the money, and so that's the perception. I'm just telling you, and that's, I mean, by God, we'll have athletics, but we're not having. You know, we're not willing to make, whether it be us, and I say we, or our principals, or the band directors, or the choral teachers. There have been some that have gone to the mat about it, and that's good, I think. But, you know, if you don't have somebody advocating for you, then you're just out, kind of. In my opinion. Perception. We've been over damn backwards to have every athletic event, as far as I know. I don't know when they we canceled the season. Did we? And we had a choral concert, but we've had pageant. And I know social distancing, but I mean the pictures you see and everything else. Nobody's had a damn mask on. You know, at our schools, right? And we approved all that. I'm sure somebody had to sign off on some such use this facility for this reason. I'm sure having 800 photos after a pageant was not on. I'm not banging on pageants, but that's just the most recent thing. So I'm sure taking 800 pictures without a mask on after a pageant was not in their plan. I don't know that, Valerie, but I mean I'm sure that probably wasn't included, right? So maybe this is just a message for principals out there that if you're hearing it, maybe try to do a little bit more to help support that, and everybody included, if you would. But I'll just start directing people back to the principals. I guess I don't know what else to do. I'll send them to Dr. Spence. I guess I'll just send them to y'all. I hate that we can't. I hate that it's so. It's not equitable. I just hate the fact it's not. But and there's no GHSA that's supporting band or chorus. So
I'll second Mike. I think the principals definitely need to do the best they can to try to at least submit a plan. Even if it's something very restricted, at least they're showing effort. And that way the parents at least see that everyone's trying to work together. Because trust me, this is bad on all of us. I mean, we're all ready for this to get over with. But I think we're at a point in time now where we've got to start trying to help these kids just as much as we can get involved. If we've got some principals willing to do it, if there's a lag because of concerns, I get that. And at that point, that's that leadership of that principal, and that's their decision. But I would support Mike's thought too, that I wish everyone would at least submit a plan and see where it goes. So.
With the middle schools operating on terms, 4 9-week terms, we're about to come to the end of the third 9-week term, so it would be nice to see maybe them take the opportunity for that last term to be something workable for the kids in those classes.
I don't want to put anybody in harm's way or anybody, but how can we safely get things back to as close as they were before? And again, we've made the strides to do that in everything else I've seen, with that exception. But unless somebody comes to us with a plan.
Do we have other middle schools doing band in the classroom, to our knowledge?
Not with wind instruments. Are you talking about in the other areas?
No,
other
well, that
places?
as well.
Oh yeah, in other areas they're doing. Yes, absolutely. Around us, surrounding counties, yes, absolutely.
But then we have some here locally, because we have 4. So we've got some that are in the classroom and some that are not.
I haven't been in that band classroom in the middle school.
Right.
To share. But I promise you this, about 8:08 I'll be there in the morning, so whoever's listening can know that.
I'm just trying to figure out where the innuendos are coming from that we have. Well, how come this school is getting to do it and my school is not getting to do it? So somebody's
Well, we're gonna find out.
Well, we all got an email tonight from a band director, you know, I mean, it's not like this is some random damn
Right.
person that I'm just making up. You
No,
know,
I know.
it impacts their children and
And it
you know, their
impacts my
students,
child. My
everything.
child's in band.
Mine too.
It impacts my child. I understand.
But the high schools are doing it because they're spread out, so it's more the middle
They've
schools.
got, it's
that-
easier for them to do it.
Right,
I mean, I
that's
get
what I'm
that,
saying,
yeah.
they've got more room, but I'm asking about the middle schools, because that seems to be the issue with everyone, that
If
we have
someone-
some, it's not
If someone
consistent.
wants to do it, and they take the effort and take the time to do a plan that will work, and work with Dr. Whitehead, they can do it. But it takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of energy to get it done. That's what I'm saying.
And then I would just, I have to add the caveat that the example probably given, based on the plan that was submitted, I've not seen a revised plan as late as yesterday. I still saw the original plan. And so I can't say that that's being done with anything that we would be able to come back and say that we know it's happening the way that it should be.
So during the principals meeting tomorrow, we'll encourage them to come up with a plan.
If there are no plans, parents, go to your
Could be
directors
worse.
and your principals and
Could be Chicago.
work on that.
They got a plan, they're not going back.
All right, anything else that we need to?
No, thank you.
Yes, the other
Yes.
thing, in the paper, it was written that, several different schools, we're making provision for several different schools, and they wanna know, are we doing anything about resurfacing the track at Risley Annex? Based on the provisions that are in the paper about what the Board of Education plan on doing with the other schools, they think that resurfacing of Risley Annex should be in the budget.
Is that for the East Block? Or was that just the budget? Because that's the track at the old Risley, the Risley Annex, it's on the
Risley Annex.
backside?
The paper was talking about East Bluff,
Okay,
if it was
Okay.
today's article.
Right, and she just
I
sent a
didn't read it.
email saying that we're making provision for different schools, but we did not say anything about researching track at Risley Annex, can that be included?
Who goes there?
The Risley Alternative, Mona Star, and 3 groups.
We have students out there though, right? I mean, does it ever use the track, or is that ever that you know
The
of?
students don't use the track that I know of.
I used to
So
run
where
that
they go
track.
for PE or,
They have a gym.
they don't go outside for,
I don't think so. I don't think those kids go outside.
Can you make that a future agenda item where we can discuss and
But
talk
we
to
do
them out
have-
there and see if we have people that go out there
I'm
and
really
actually?
sure they don't go outside. I was trying
but
to
we
find
do
out.
have local organization, we do have local organization, youth sports group that use Risley Annex for extracurricular activities.
We could talk about it, or if, just add.
put it on the
next-
agenda
for
next
next
work
month, and maybe
session.
have Al talk to, because I mean, I don't even know if it was part of an East Block discussion or whatever else, so we can
It's
kind
not
of.
on these
But we
calls.
can
It's
kind
not
of,
on the list, no.
but we can still discuss it, I guess, and at least let Al talk about it and see where it goes. So, do you mind adding that to next month's work session, please? Alrighty, any other?
Move to adjourn.
Motion made by Dr. Jurgen for adjournment. Any second? Ms. Sam's gonna take us out. All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned at 8:13 PM.
Just gonna go home.